I'm sure you're on mute. Let me know you got it. Mark? Okay,
Yes, it's good to go. Good to go.
got it. Okay. I'm gonna hit record. All right, the floor is yours, Stephen.
Thank you. And I cut that off the top of the document. The September 9th, 2024 meeting of the Oregon Country Fair Board of Directors will come to order. And we'll begin with announcements. If you have an announcement, please raise your hand in chat. Any announcements? Stephen.
Yeah, so I'm going to make mine a slightly longer announcement in lieu of doing a little elections report in the middle, but it won't be very long, I promise. The first thing I should let folks know is that the international ballots were mailed today. So we're in our mailing process and things are going out. We'll be mailing Alaska and Hawaii ballots on Wednesday, and the rest of the ballots we're hoping to mail next Monday. We have a lot of new members this year. Close to 1,000 new members over last year, and we're a little short on elections help. This weekend, we are doing a ballot preparation party at the Vineyard out on our property, and we could use some more helpers. So if anybody has some time on Saturday or Sunday, please email elections@OregonCountryFair.org. We would love to have you come out and help prepare some ballots and get them sent so we get them all out the door next Monday. That's I guess I should mention a few dates that are coming up. September 19th is the deadline to register to vote. We must have your registration form in hand by 8 o'clock on the 19th. If you mail it and it gets delivered later, that doesn't count. We have to have it in hand on the 19th. The 29th is the Get Out the Vote Candidates Forum. That will be an online meeting with the candidates answering questions that are submitted to Get Out the Vote ahead of time. You can watch that on YouTube, and you can submit questions for the candidates to gotv@OregonCountryFair.org between now and probably the 27th or so they can collate them and get them ready. The annual meeting of the membership will be October 12th at the Longhouse on the LCC campus. That is a hybrid meeting, so it will be in person and online. The candidates will be making statements at that meeting. There will not be an elections presence at the meeting itself. If you need any type of ballot remedies or get a new ballot issued or whatever, we will be at the town office between 4 and 5:30 on the date of the annual meeting. So you can come by the town office and take care of your ballot issues and then go out to the Longhouse for the meeting. There will be a ballot box at the annual meeting, so if you bring your ballot, you can deposit it there. Ballots will be due, though, 1 week after the annual meeting on October 19th. So that takes care of all the dates and deadlines. I want to mention one other thing, though. We generated the list of international addresses today out of our new membership database. We are not using the spreadsheets we've been using for the last year and a half. We are using our new database now. It is functional. It is wonderful. We have a lot of features we want to add to it, but it is working really well now. And I want to thank the team that developed that database, Mason and Milo and Aton. They worked really hard, put in a lot of extra hours getting it ready for us for this election, and it's ready. So thank you all. I'm done now.
Thank you, Stephen. John Steinhardt.
Two things real quick. First, I am still looking for user interface people to work on Sunshine. So all of you people that think it's hard to use, get a hold of me or get a hold of the office who will put you in touch with me because we could use some more help on that. Second of all, I know I said something about this before. We have a lot of people that are off on Facebook and places talking about how they love the fair and hate everything about it, which is pretty disheartening, not just to me, but to everybody else that really works hard to do this. And I realize that every month Kirsten gives her report and we thank her for her report, but I'm not sure we've ever said thank you for rocking it. And despite the weather and the trouble with one of our contractors, putting on a great event that made us money this year, so we get to do it again. So at least from me, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. A reminder that other than board members and staff, please turn your video off unless you're recognized to speak. And let's see, next person is AJ.
Yes, I just wanted to announce that the board has had 3 closed sessions since we last met. 2 of those closed sessions were with a board training, and one of them was regarding personnel.
Thank you very much. And Sue.
I was out on site this weekend for a very productive food committee retreat, and we went on a field trip over to the winery. I was very impressed by what I saw from recycling crew with composting, but my mind was blown by how much incredible work the Durables crew has done. They have transformed the inside of the winery to do their job. They're working really, really hard, and I thank them profoundly for taking that job on.
Thank you. And Arna.
I just wanted to announce that the Jill Hyman Vision Fund will be giving, with the generosity from the fair at their match, will be giving out $31,406 this year. I don't have the breakdown of how much each group will get. That will be in the Fair Family News, and I could also have that breakdown at our next board meeting. I just don't have it tonight. But that's a great total and a great thing that the fair does, giving this money back into the community. And everybody who donates to the Vision Fund should get a round of applause here, plus the fair for its matching donations. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Arna. And that's all I have is the last call for announcements. Is there anyone else who has an announcement? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move on to approving the minutes from the August 5th, 2024 meeting. Is there any objection to adopting the minutes from the August 5th, 2024 meeting as they were submitted by unanimous consent? Any objection? If you have any edits, any issues with it, now's the time to speak. Is there any board member who has any comments on the minutes? I assume not. Last call. Seeing none, the minutes from the August 5th, 2024 meeting are adopted by unanimous consent. And now we are on to agenda review, amend, and approve. Is there any objection to the agenda as submitted? Paxton.
I would like to table the first motion to on the changing the membership age to December. I was asked to do this by the committee.
Okay, usually that would be done when that old piece of business comes up, as opposed to an agenda change to remove it. Is there any, why don't we just leave that until it comes up in old business, and then you could start off right off by asking to table it till next meeting or indefinitely?
No, till December.
Okay.
Thank
To
you.
a specific time. That's the key piece. Sandra.
I would like to ask if we could move, appoint Ashley Ackerberg to the Personnel Policies Committee to the first place on the agenda, so she doesn't have to stay for the whole meeting if she doesn't want to. So,
Is there any objection? Hearing no objection, so ordered. That will be the first item of old business. And then we'll go to the changing petition signature motion. Any other agenda items? Last call? Okay, seeing none, is there any objection to adopting the agenda as amended with one committee appointment being moved to the first place on old business. Last call. Seeing no objection, the agenda is adopted as amended, and we'll go to membership comments. John, were you on the agenda?
Yeah, I was just looking at the agenda, and I'm not sure what business Paxton was wanting to postpone because I don't see it here.
That's the change petition signature requirement, the first motion, which is now the second motion.
Okay, great. Okay, thanks.
And Ash,
He did say voting age, and I put a question mark because there is not.
Yes, that was
old
my
business.
error. I apologize.
Okay,
Okay, I knew what he meant.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
sorry, I wrote the note like, am I missing something? Sorry.
No, and I knew what he meant, so I heard what I was expecting. Okay, so back to membership comments. Anyone with membership comments, items that are not on the agenda, please raise your hand in chat. So far, there are none. Last call. Coyote, are you raising your hand here instead of in chat? Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Stephen.
You can turn your video on too if you like.
Don't think that'll scare too many people. Okay. I'm directing my comment this evening to Sue Theolis. So, Sue, I noticed that you've chosen to vacate your position as a board member once this year's elections are complete. I offer to you my sincere gratitude for the many years and countless hours of service that you've provided to this organization and to its membership, myself included. Your quiet and your steady commitment to your vision of what the Oregon Country Fair is and the values that you manifest have been consistent and unwavering during your time of service. I never have to wonder if you're grandstanding or virtue waving or bombarding your audience with a confusing collection of word salad nonsense meant to impress or distract. You've always been true to your heart and your commitment to what you feel is for the well-being and in the best interest of the fair. I've never had to try to figure out if you're taking a stance on an issue because you're looking forward towards the next board election or because you feel it is the political correctness du jour. You've been a clear example of acting on what your virtues are, what your values are, not what you think will gain you popularity or votes. You've been true to yourself, and there's nothing more that one would ever expect from a representative of this organization. While I've not always agreed with some of your decisions, what is more important to me is that I have admired and respected your internal process. You've always been true to who it is that you are at the core of your being. And this is what has mattered most to me, your personal integrity and honesty. I can only trust that the individual who is selected to take your seat on our board will manifest and mirror those same standards and qualities. From the bottom of my heart, thank you for your service and best wishes for your future. I know that you're not leaving, you're only sharing your spirit through different paths. Thank you, Ms. Sue.
Michael, it's not fair to make me cry at the start of a meeting.
So any other member comments? Last call for member comments. Okay, seeing none, we're going to move on to the staff report, executive director's report.
Sorry, I needed to cancel that timer. Thank you, everybody. Good evening. Glad you could all be here tonight. Get started with the administration report. The 2023 financial statements are in this month's board packet. The 2023 990 and CT12 tax filings are underway. I received them today and they will be in the October board packet for the board to review. As Stephen mentioned, the board of directors election is October 19th. Ballots are due at the Eugene office by 8 p.m. on that day. September 19th is the deadline to register to vote in this election. and a candidate forum is scheduled for September 29th at 4 p.m. via Zoom. Please email your questions for candidates to gotv@OregonCountryFair.org. I am correcting the email address that I put in my report. It was elections, and it should be GoTV. The annual membership meeting is October 12th at 6:30 p.m. at Lane Community College, Longhouse. Excuse me. We encourage members to watch on the YouTube live stream if they can't attend in person. Our ATMs at the fair issued $955,000 this year. Last year it was $957,000, so very much on par. We did add an additional ATM machine this year to reduce the lines. That didn't help much. They were still very long. Budget season is beginning, and we'll be changing the denomination of the food voucher back to a single denomination. It was too difficult to manage the two denominations. We may employ 2 printers to accomplish the volume we need. We purchased fixed asset software to barcode and scan all of our assets. This will take a while, but will give us a comprehensive list of all of our physical assets. The software is very inexpensive because the technology is widely used now. The Sound Task Force has begun meeting again. They will hold a community listening session via Zoom on Tuesday, October 15th, 2024 at 7 p.m. The link is on the .net site, and I encourage everyone to spread the word and encourage people to come and participate and tell us what their feelings and thoughts are about our sound at the event. The EAB Task Force has begun meeting again as well. We met to learn about an ODF grant on 9/4. It is a $12 million fund from the Inflation Reduction Act distributed through the United States Forest Service, passed down to the Oregon Department of Forestry, Urban and Community Forestry Program. We have several volunteers stepping up right now to help write that grant, and the deadline to apply is October 15th. We are eligible. The property on the far side, although it is not our entire property, any money is helpful. So on the event management side, the Teddy Bears Picnic was a success. The weather was perfect. I want to thank all the volunteers that came out to enjoy the picnic and to thank the volunteers that helped put it on. The annual Beaver Open took place August 30th through September 2nd. We love hosting this group, and the tournament was a success. The annual Elmira High School track meet is scheduled for this Wednesday, September 11th. Every year, up to 500 youth from around the state participate. The guideline submission date is moving forward this year. The form will go live on the .net site on October 1st. The closing date is November 15th. This will allow the board to vote on guideline policy changes at the December board meeting. Moving the date up will enable us to easily meet our printing deadline. In regards to the site, the Winery House Type 2 replacement dwelling permit is under review by the county. I expect it to be granted in the next 4 to 6 weeks. Neighbors were given the opportunity to comment on this, and all that responded were supportive. This winter, we'll be focusing on creating 5 feet of defensible space around all our buildings, limiting all trees that are within 20 feet of our structures to 15 feet high, addressing hazardous trees, and our ability to acquire property insurance requires this. A special note from the site manager, he wants to thank the craft and food booths. They did an excellent job of cleaning and removing all of their belongings this year. It was a huge difference from last year. So thank you very, very much for helping us clean up the site. In regards to marketing, the 2024 commemorative sales were very strong. Be sure to check out our merchandise site at merch.OregonCountryFair.org. All of our posters are available for reprint. We will do a 4th quarter merchandise sales push. This will include logo etched water bottles and 2 logo branded t-shirts, 1 ladies V-neck, and 1 unisex crew neck. The remainder of the unsold 2024 merchandise will also be available. We'll also do a 4th quarter direct donor campaign, and it will launch October 1st. Culture Jam was a huge success. I want to congratulate Jans and his team for another successful year. There will be a report submitted about this year's event at the November board meeting. Thank you all for your time. Appreciate you all.
Thank you, Kirsten, and Hillary with the financial report.
Thanks, Stephen. A few things. A reminder for coordinators and others who have spending authority to get your receipts in for reimbursement by September 30th. That's our hard deadline. Kirsten and Norma have been doing a great job at getting things caught up and entered. We're getting things done much more quickly than in the past and may try to move that deadline up in coming years so that we have good financials earlier for the board and the membership. At this point, do expect that we'll have the interim report in time for the annual meeting where we'll talk about the current year results as of that date, as of September 30th, as well as a capacity report. As Kirsten said, we're slowly starting to gear up the budget season, and coordinators will probably hear from the budget committee sometime mid to late October. And then a word, this is primarily to the board right now because they're the ones that can look at the financial statements, our reviewed financial statements for 2023. We'll have those up and available for members at the by the time of the annual meeting. Just a reminder that what comes when we get our financial reports back from the accountant, there's a couple of things that happen. One, they've reviewed it. We get a review level that's less than an audit and more than compilation. So they do take some time to inquire and perform analytics and see if the numbers make sense. The financials are stated in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. So some things get grouped differently. It's different than how we report on a day-to-day basis and how we report to the board and how we report the annual meeting results. Because what we do is our budget categories, our crews, our staff areas of concentration, our administrative areas. And for generally accepted accounting principles, we regroup it into program areas so you can see the cost of the event, you can see the cost of Culture Jam, and you can see the administrative cost. And we comply with the disclosures that are needed. So there's some interesting things in there about disclosure. Some of it's also really arcane accounting stuff that is more suited to a larger organization than ours, but we still have to go through with those requirements. If you look at the 2023 results, this report, it basically looks like we broke even. And if you remember last year, we didn't meet our revenue projections. We did meet them in 2024, but in 2023, when we sent them off to the accountant, it looked like we broke even, and that's the way the results came back. But the main thing that happened in there that affected that was when we got an insurance recovery for the burning of the winery house, and that money's all being reinvested. So the results look great they're not the stellar kind of results that we used to have, but considering that we're still struggling to come back from COVID, particularly in 2023, it looks a little bit better partly because of that. I'm not trying to diss anybody who did a lot of hard work to make the great recovery that we're having, but just to remember that recovery is still underway. And I think once this year is completed, I think we'll be in a very solid point of recovery and really having our financial feet under ourselves and being able to do planning. But there's still a certain amount of, trying to make sure that we've got that solidness and are able to go forward with some confidence. So I want to thank everybody, for this last year, and particularly the people who are involved with financial cycle. People have taken on a tremendous amount of responsibility in this organization for collecting cash, for recording cash. It's just a remarkable thing what the volunteers and staff take on. It's a lot of dispersed responsibility and a lot of big responsibility. And thank you so much for doing that. That's it. Are you talking, Stephen?
We can't hear you, Stephen, and you're not muted.
No,
There we
no,
go.
my mic is muted. I've got a button right here, and sometimes I push it, but it doesn't go. So let's, if we cannot use the hand emojis, Coyote, where it's kind of like speaking out of turn. So we're to committees and work group reports, and there are none submitted. Is there any change to that? Last call, seeing none. We're moving on to old business, and we are at the appointment of Ashley Ackerberg to the Personnel Policies Committee, sponsored by AJ, Tom Horn, and Sandra Bauer. Who would like to make the motion? Sandra?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, moved by Sandra Bauer and seconded by John Steinhardt. Did you want to speak to it, Sandra?
Yes, I would. Thank you. I'd like to move to appoint Ashley Ackerberg to the Personnel Policies Committee. Should I wanted to speak to that as well?
Yeah, no, we've already entered the motion, so just go ahead and speak to it.
Okay. Ashley has just exactly the kind of expertise that we need on the Personnel Policies Committee. And we're really very happy to see her be willing to take this on. She's a professional in the HR realm, and she's an HR manager. Her duties have included onboarding, performance evaluations, team performance reports, professional development, resolution of employee issue escalations, and she's has expertise in state and federal compliance, employee management and retention initiatives, and a lot more. And I really urge you to vote to add her to our committee. We need her. So thank you.
Thank you. And is there any member input on this motion? And Ashley, would you like to speak first?
Sure, I'd be happy to speak. Thank you for that one. Welcome, Sandra. So yeah, as she's speaking to, I have 6 years of HR management experience. Prior to that, I spent 10 years in education. More importantly, I was born and raised about 10-15 miles from the country fair. I had old hippie parents who actually never made their way to the fair, but I discovered it for the first time myself when I was 18. And then I spent about a little over 10 years working for Carol DeFazio, selling little kids capes and fairy wings and whatnot on Upper River Loop. And then I've been kind of in and out of the fair since then in a variety of capacities. The pandemic happened and I started a family. And so it was a little bit difficult for me to dig back into the fair. And then when a friend shared this opportunity with the Personnel Policy Committee with me and was like, you are the exact fit of all of the things that they would probably be looking for. So I was really excited to apply. I currently live up in Portland, Oregon. And yeah, I'm just really interested in being able to contribute to the fair community in a discrete skill set that, you know, is kind of a unique combination of being an enthusiastic fair goer and also like HR compliance. So I'm happy to wear both hats and be able to join if you'll have me. So thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you very much. Last call for any other member input. Any members wish to speak to the motion? Raise your hand in chat if you do. Seeing none, we'll go to board discussion. Is there any board discussion on this motion? Last call for board discussion. Since no one has spoken against the motion, is there any objection to appointment of Ashley Ackerberg to the Personnel Policies Committee by unanimous consent?
Stephen?
Hey, Stephen,
I'm
we-
going to abstain.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Go ahead. AJ?
Oh, I was just gonna say, can we take the roll call vote?
Sure.
Thanks.
Sandra?
Sorry. Yes, I'm a yes.
George?
Yes.
Paxton?
Yes.
AJ?
Yes.
Lisa?
He's not here.
Not here.
John
Lisa's
Steinhardt.
absent. John
Yeah.
Alexander's absent,
Yeah.
and Tom Horn will be late. Sorry.
John Steinhardt.
Yes.
Sue, you abstain?
Yes, abstain.
Tom is absent. Teresa?
Yes.
Arna?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
And the motion passes with 8 in favor, 3 people absent, and 1 abstention. Okay. We're now on to the next item of business, which is the to change the petition signature requirement from a hard number to a percentage of members voting in the last election. sponsored by John Alexander, George Braddock, Paxton Hogue, Kevin Levy, Lisa Parker, Sue Theolis, and Teresa Vaughn. And let's make the motion first, and then we will do the tabling, Paxton. So who's going to make the motion? Do you want to make it?
I can make it, yes.
Sure. So motion made. Is there a second?
Second.
Anyone? Seconded by Teresa. And would you like to make a motion, Paxton?
I would like to table it till December. I've been asked that by Stephen and to take the place of Lisa, who's not here tonight. Unfortunately, Stephen is too busy with elections to really help us deal with it, and he asked to table it till December.
Is there a second on the motion to table?
Second.
Seconded by Teresa. Okay. And so we are talking now about tabling. Do you want to speak to tabling, John Steinhardt?
Yes, I was wondering if Paxton could explain what's going to be different in December and why we can't just get this out of the way this evening.
Okay. Paxton, do you want to speak to that? No one else is on the stack.
It's just, I think there's the workload on Stephen is quite a bit busy right now, and he's asked us to defer this. There's no real hurry in this one in particular, so it seemed to be just easy enough to do.
Any further discussion on the motion to table? Any member input? Seeing none, board input. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, let's go ahead and do this by voice also, or by roll call. Sandra, this is to table the motion till December.
Yes.
George,
Yes.
Paxton,
Yes.
AJ,
Yes.
and absent. John Steinhardt,
No.
Sue,
Yes.
John Alexander's gone. Let me know if Thomas shows up and I didn't notice. Teresa,
Yes.
Arna,
Yes.
Kevin.
Yes.
Motion passes with 8 in favor, 3 absent, and 1 no vote. John Steinhardt voting no. Motion is tabled until December. We're on to the process to keep committees in good standing, sponsored by AJ, Sandra, Teresa, Paxton, and Arna. Who would like to make the motion?
I would. I also have a presentation. Do I make the motion before the presentation?
Let's make the motion and get a second.
I move that we accept the committee in good standing proposal.
I
Is there
second.
seconded by Sandra? And would you like to speak to the motion, Teresa? Teresa has a presentation that's going to be part of her first initial motion speaking time.
Okay, everybody. Got a teacher in the house here, so I'm doing it the way I do things. Apologies. So I want to just begin with a deep appreciation to all the work people put in on committees. That was deeply felt by this group of people that were working on this. Our focus on this motion is to find ways to support our committees to be successful. And we are attempting to have clear expectations and a clear process. And most of us feel pretty good about where we are. So here we go. Sorry for the face on this. I couldn't see it on my phone, how angry I looked. Okay. So first we are defining what in good standing means. A committee, task force, or working group, hereafter called a committee, formed by a vote of the Oregon Country Fair Board of Directors that is fulfilling its mission and purpose and is following the committee best practices manual, the OCF code of conduct, and all other OCF guidelines would be considered in good standing. In the event that a committee is not meeting these conditions, the board will use the following process to help committees get back on track. It's a 4-step process. First, there would have to be a determination of the committee status. Then a committee would be given 3 regularly scheduled meetings to resolve clearly identified issues. If that doesn't resolve things, a mentoring team will work with the committee not in good standing for 2 additional regularly scheduled meetings, and there'd be a resolution. And the proposal speaks very specifically to each one of those steps. Step 1. A minimum of 3 board members must agree that a committee is straying from good standing to start this process. They would submit a confidential report to the board detailing specific issues that need to be resolved. The board would meet in a closed session pursuant to Article 8, Section 3, because personnel issues may be involved, to act on the recommendation. If the board finds the committee is not in good standing, they would send a board-approved letter to members of the committee detailing the specific issues that need to be addressed. Importantly, at the sole discretion of the board, the process may start at whatever step is appropriate or delete any step. For example, the board could move the committee directly to step 3 and assign a mentoring team. And I do want to be clear that all the words you're looking at are the exact words in the proposal. Good standing violations include, but aren't limited to, is still step 1 here. The violations of committee best practice, violations of the code of conduct, failure to work on or complete assigned tasks, failure to submit a substantially complete annual report, or finally, a failure to achieve a 50% quorum of approved committee members for 3 meetings. Then we move to step 2. That's when this is assuming the board agrees with the 3 members. A committee would be given 3 regularly scheduled meetings to resolve identified issues. Within 2 weeks after these 3 regularly scheduled committee meetings, the committee must submit a response to the board detailing how and if the issues have been resolved. The lack of a quorum or the cancellation of meetings will not affect this timeline. In the case of a committee that meets infrequently, the timeline may be altered at the discretion of the board. The board liaison shall support the committee in dealing with the specific issues outlined in step 1, and board liaisons may ask other board members for assistance, or the board may assign board members to assist. Still on step 2 here, the board shall review the response from the committee in a closed session to determine whether the committee shall remain in good standing. Failure to submit a response automatically moves a committee to the status of not in good standing. In the event the board determines the committee is not in good standing, they will move to step 3 of this process, which is our mentoring team will work with the committee not in good standing for 2 regularly scheduled meetings. The board will also determine the steps the mentoring team and the committee must take to return the committee to good standing. Depending on the nature of the issues, the board may suspend the committee while determining these next steps. These may include, but are not limited to, the removing members who are not following the OCF Code of Conduct, Committee Best Practices Manual, OCF Guidelines, or the committee's mission statement, or that have more than 3 absences at regularly scheduled meetings, issuing a call out for new members and selecting new members, refining the mission of the committee, ensuring that decisions are made by majority vote after a reasonable attempt to reach consensus, requiring a quorum of at least 50% of members. Remember, these are all possible things, they might not all happen. Requiring the committee to submit past due minutes and all new committee minutes within a time specified by the board for posting on the OregonCountryFair.net site. Requiring subcommittee minutes are submitted to all members of the committee before the next regularly scheduled meeting. And finally, or requiring the committee to submit a list of committee members and friends of the committee with contact information to the OCF office for updating the contact list. Within, again, just like in step 2, within 2 weeks after these 2 regularly scheduled meetings, the mentoring team and the committee will each submit a report to the board. So both parties have a voice detailing the steps that were taken to cure the issues. Again, the lack of a quorum or the cancellation of meetings will not affect this timeline. In the case of a committee that meets infrequently, the timeline can be altered at the discretion of the board. Then finally, we would move to resolution. The board will meet in a closed session. 4 options are: the committee is returned to a status of in good standing, or the committee remains not in good standing, but could be given additional time to come into good standing, or the committee will be disbanded, or the mentoring team and the board approved committee may offer an alternative solution. I already did this, so we don't need my little moment, but I'm proposing we accept this proposal. That's it.
Thank you. And we're going to go to member input. And I see Hillary has her hand up.
Thanks, Teresa. That's super helpful. I really appreciate what the Committee of Best Practices has been doing. I think it's been helping the committees a lot, and I can tell this is a lot of really well thought out work here, and I hope it does end up supporting us and having our committees get their work done. On step 2, and then again on I think it was step 3, there's some language that I found very confusing. When it said the lack of a quorum will not affect this timeline, I couldn't tell if that means if there's no quorum, then you still have the 2 regularly scheduled meetings, which the language I couldn't even, I'm assuming those are regularly scheduled meetings of the committee in question. But when it says a lack of quorum won't affect this timeline, then does that mean those don't count as the meetings, or you blew through one of your 3 meetings when you didn't have a quorum? So you don't have to clarify this for me during this meeting, but I feel like that needs to be nailed down and clarified a little bit.
Thank you, Hillary. Grumpy. Grumpy?
Oh, sorry, it took me a bit to find my unmute. I appreciate all the work that's gone into this, but this is much too complicated. Just try to figure out how many meetings this would take to get this done, and I don't see any reason to do this complicated process. So I would hope you would vote against it.
Thank you. Lisa Cooley.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Been a while since I've done Zoom. I actually want to echo what Hillary said. That was the first thing that I noticed. That got me very confused. Secondly, I'm curious, do we have enough committees that are actually not complying with the rules that we need to do this? Question mark? Question mark. But you know what I mean. I just didn't realize that this was a thing. And so I'm curious. And it's okay to do if we have to put all of our diligence into doing something the right way, I believe in that. And I'm totally pro. But is there really a necessary need to do this? That's all I'm asking. Thank you.
Thank you. Heather.
So I guess a couple things, and it's already been addressed a little bit. The quorum one seems like it definitely needs to be thought about, because does that mean then that the board is now deciding that a quorum for a committee is 50%? I think committees have been sort of setting that, unless I've missed something from the committee best practices manual. Maybe it's already outlined there, but in case it's not, there would be that question to think about. And then also, what if a committee does not meet one of the objective criteria outlined here, such as failure to get attendance? Does this then allow the board to decide that one committee is still in good standing, maybe because it hasn't come up or come to anyone's attention, or for other reasons? So would it allow the board to decide that one committee is still in good standing and another is not, when both have failed the same criteria? So I think you have to be careful, because that means you're setting yourself up for doing some serious monitoring of what's going on, in order to be fair. Thanks.
Thank you, Heather. And I'm just going to ask, based on the question I just saw, I see in step 3 that you're expecting committees to require a quorum of at least 50% of members, and then under the violations, it's failure to achieve a 50% quorum. So I think the thing that strikes me as needing clarification is, if a committee has a quorum of more than 50%, is that the bar that they have to mean? Does it mean to achieve a quorum of 50% or the quorum set by the committee, something like that? If their bar is 2/3, what is the requirement to be a violation? Is it 2/3 or is it 50%? Because obviously if they got only 50%, they shouldn't be able to do business if their quorum's 2/3. Thanks. And is there any other member input? Still looking for member input. Let the record show Tom Horn is here. Last call for member input. We'll go to board discussion. Any board members want to speak to the motion? John Steinhardt.
Yeah, I support this motion kind of reluctantly. I think this motion does a really good job of setting expectations for committees, and that's a good thing. One of the reasons I'm willing to support it is it doesn't actually take away the rights of the board, which is we have the ability to create and dissolve committees anytime we want to. We don't need a process like this to do this, but I think it is nice to have a good set of standards out there for people so that we're not being arbitrary all the time. I have two kind of small objections to this, but again, I don't think they're enough to make me vote against it. One is, as Grumpy says, this is a really slow process. There's a lot of meetings. It's really hard for us to get together and do it. And if we can take the better part of a year to determine that a committee is not in good standing and to try to get it back, what does that say about the importance of the committee work to the board? I mean, we have these committees to do important work for us. And if they can not be in good standing for an extended period of time, do we really need that committee at all, is the question I have. And then I also am not really happy with the fact that the board would get together in closed session and need a 2/3 vote to put a committee not in good standing, because to me, it's kind of reminiscent of when the board did hiring and firing of coordinators back when it was operational, and you could never get 2/3 to get rid of a coordinator. So I'm a little worried that we will never actually find a committee not in good standing with this process, but I'm willing to give it a try. Thanks.
Thank you. Paxton.
I sat through the work group, and this is a well thought out system. I agree it's laborious and time consuming. I think it's too laborious in my own opinion, and I expressed this during the committee meetings that I attended. I also have a big problem at the very beginning with having only 3 board members being able to start this process. I think that lends itself to the potential of abuse from the past times I've seen on the board of my many years on the board. And so I would be much more in favor of 5 members, and would like to make a friendly amendment to change that from 3 to 5.
Okay, well, that's really an amendment because it's changing the meaning. We've tried
I move
to
to
amend.
amend.
Is there a second to amend 3 board members to 5? Anyone want to second that? Last call. Is there any board member who wants to second that change from 3 to 5? Okay, that fails for lack of a second. Sorry, Paxton.
Okay.
And is that all? Going to Sandra now?
I just disapprove of the complexity and that portion of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Sandra.
Yeah, I wanted to say that it is definitely, the whole intent for this is to work with committees so that they can do the work of the board and the work that they're tasked to do and the work that we need them to do. We all need them to be functioning efficiently. And as part of that, we have a mentoring step in there. And I think that is how you do provide assistance to a committee that somehow is not performing as we need them to perform. And I wanted to say to you, Paxton, a little bit here, it takes 3 members to bring it up, but then it takes a supermajority of the board to approve and agree. So nothing goes forward until there's a supermajority of the board that says, we really need to work with this committee now. And these are the things we want to work with them on. And then to provide that assistance to them through the mentoring process and with the liaison. So I think it's a very supportive, it's extremely supportive. And it isn't really complicated, but it does take a while because it takes a while and it should take a while. It should take time to do this appropriately. So I don't think it's too complicated. It is long, but it was designed to be long. You have to give people the opportunity to maybe, to rearrange how they do things. And so I think this is a really important step forward for us, and it gives us a way to work with committees and close that circle. One of the things that we have been, not that great at doing is providing enough feedback to committees so that sometimes they have to guess what the board wants. And, I think we have to engage with them. So I'm hoping people will vote for this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Arna.
So I agree with Sandra in terms of the length of time. We designed it to be kind of lengthy because we do want to give committees the time to work on whatever issues we think they might have. This whole policy is designed to support committees, and that so it's a slow process because of that. We want to give them steps to work on things. And I think we do need to have a policy that is not arbitrary to specific committees. And that's why we developed a policy, because we don't want to have one committee have a problem and then we just have to go deal with them in some arbitrary manner. We wanted to have a consistent policy that would work across all committees. Hopefully we won't use this policy very much. That's actually really the goal, is to not have to use it. But we want to have it there if we need it. Because it's better to have the policy and not use it, or use it very infrequently, than to not have a policy when we need it. I think, that, and in terms of, it's 3 members can bring this to the board, write a report to the board. But it does take 5 board members to call a closed meeting, or 2 board members and the president. And so if we wanted 5 board members to call that meeting, then those 3 board members in that report would need to convince either the president or 2 more board members to call a meeting. There's a lot of safeguards, written into this. It's not like 3 board members are going to bully the rest of the board into doing something with a committee. You just can't do that in the way we work. And it really is, as Sandra says, all about supporting committees. and giving them feedback and making sure, you know, they're working within our protocols and that they know what we want and we know what they want, you know, and what they need to support them. So I am supporting this policy and this motion, and I'm hoping the rest of the board will too. Thank you.
Thank you. AJ?
Yes, I support this motion. I am hoping that the makers of this motion could briefly address the quorum question, the 50% quorum question.
Can I take that one?
Sure.
Or, it's meant to, I think what it's meant to say, that if you don't have a meeting because of a quorum, you know, that still counts in your 3 meetings. So, you know, that's what it's meant to say. Is that the question that you had, AJ?
I'm more interested in the 3 months without a quorum. Like if a committee goes 3 months without a quorum. I know that's a tough question because some committees have different versions of what a quorum is. And
Okay.
so if we could just clear that up.
Well, there are some committees that have different quorums. And as long as they're in good standing, they get to continue having those, you know, whatever quorum works for them. And unless, you know, best practices or something else decide some other thing. But what the second part, are you talking about step 3, requiring a quorum of at least 50 members? So if they're a committee not in good standing, we may insist that they have a representative quorum of 50%. So that's one of the options that that the good standing process would address. So they may allow them to continue with whatever quorum they've developed for themselves, or they may be said, it might be said, you really need to have a quorum of 50%.
Thank you. And then the last thing I was going to say is thank you to all the board members who spent months and months and months working on this. I know Arna, Paxton, and Sandra. I hope I'm not forgetting anybody else.
Teresa.
Teresa, you guys have worked so hard on this and taken all the feedback that you could possibly get from everybody and their grandmothers. So thank you very much. I appreciate the hard work.
Thank you. Any other board member comments? No one's on the stack right now?
Okay. Could I just say,
Sure.
I just say people should vote for it just because it was the best presentation I've ever seen at one of our meetings.
I'm thinking Teresa has to do all the presentations from now on. So for everybody.
So
Thank you, Teresa.
thank you. Any other board comments? Last call. Raise your hand in chat. Kevin.
Yeah, I'll jump in there real quick. Yes, Teresa, you're doing my presentations from here on out. I really, I think, you know, speaking to kind of what John was saying about how, you know, we might not be able to get 3/4 of board members to vote. If anything, it brings it to our attention. It alerts us that they need help and that even if we don't have to go through the process, we're aware that something's happening and we can still reach out. So I like that the process takes long. I like the safeguards. I think it's something we can work with. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Kevin. Any other board member comments? Last call. Seeing none, we're going to go to a vote. Sandra?
I'm a yes.
George?
Yes.
Paxton?
No.
AJ?
Yes.
John Steinhardt?
Yes.
Sue?
No.
Tom Horn?
Yes.
And Teresa Vaughn?
Yes.
Arna?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Okay. The motion passes with 8 yeses, Paxton voting no, Sue voting no. Tom Horn is now present, Lisa and John Alexander are absent. And that concludes that motion. We are on to appointing Sandra Bauer to the Personnel Policies Committee, sponsored by AJ, John Alexander, and Arna Shaw. Would anyone like to make that motion?
I'll make
Where
the
are we
motion.
at? Oh. Yes,
I'll make
I would like
Sandra.
to. Yes, I would like to make that motion.
Well, John Steinhardt beat you. Do you mind?
Go ahead.
Do you concede that?
John can do it.
Okay. I move to appoint Sandra Bauer to the Personnel Policies Committee.
Would you like
I'll
to second that, Arna? Yes.
Yeah, I'll second it.
Moved by John Steinhardt and seconded by Arna. Who would like to speak to it? I think Arna would.
I would like to speak to it. So Sandra has been serving on the Personnel Policies Committee for over 4 years now. She's been the liaison to the committee. And they also elected her as chair of the committee. I'm not quite sure how many years she's been chair, but quite a few years, I think, maybe most of those 4 years. She has also acted as chair of the committee. She has rewrote the personnel policies while she's been on this committee. She's done an incredible amount of work with this committee, and she deserves to be appointed to this committee now as a member, not just as the liaison. So I really would encourage the board to appoint her. You have in your packets a letter from Sandra, detailing what she's done with the committee, plus letters of recommendation from Tom Horn, and why can't I think of who the other person? Oh, Ron Chase. I remember Ron's name. Both of whom are on the committee. So I encourage you, if you haven't had a chance to look at those, to give a look at them. And that's about it.
Thank you very much. Is there any member input on this motion? If there's member input, please raise your hand in chat. Last call for member input. Seeing none, we'll go to board discussion. Is there any board discussion on this motion? John Steinhardt.
Yeah, I just want to say I support this motion. I'm really glad the way this process is playing out.
Thank you very much. Any other board discussion? Last call for board discussion. Raise your hand in chat. Seeing none, we'll go to a vote. Sandra.
I'm a yes.
George.
Yes.
Paxton.
No.
AJ.
Yes.
John Steinhardt.
Yes.
Sue.
No.
Tom Horn.
Yes.
Teresa Vaughn.
Yes.
Arna.
Yes.
Kevin.
Yes.
Motion passes with 8 yeses, Paxton voting no and Sue voting no, and Lisa Parker and John Alexander absent. And with that, we move to new business. The new business motions are for next month are to clarify the effective beginning of terms of newly elected directors, sponsored by AJ, Arna Shaw, and John Steinhardt. The appointment of EDIB work group members, AJ sponsored by AJ, Arna, and Tom Horn. The approval of language submitted by Bylaws Committee to stipulate the president and vice president must be duly elected board members, sponsored by AJ, Arna, and Lisa Parker. And the someone help me with this pronunciation. Pineros.
And Campesinos Unidos del Noreste.
The Northwest Tree Planters and Farm Workers United sponsorship. PCUN, sponsored by AJ, Teresa, Kevin, John, Paxton, Sue, Lisa, George, and Sandra. And thank you very much for the assistance. Those are the new business items. And now we will go to meeting evaluation for the good of the peach. Raise your hand in chat if you'd like to speak to this. And is that a new hand, John?
Yes, I was just wondering, before we did meeting evaluation, we have talked for many months about discussing the new business, and this is the first meeting that we actually have time to do that. And I was wondering if we could see if members had any questions or wanted any explanation about it.
So last time we tried to do that, I was told no. So is there change, AJ? Do you want to do that or not do that?
Oh, sorry, I got it. Oh, I'm unmuted. So I think we have some time to do that. However, if a maker of the motion is not prepared, just because something is on new business doesn't mean it's all the way ready. And so I want folks to be prepared for not getting answers if a maker of the motion is not prepared to give so.
Thank you. So why don't we open the floor to anyone who wants to ask a question about any of the items that are on the new business agenda, board or membership. Raise your hand in chat. Last call. Is there nobody who wants to speak to, ask any questions or speak to any of the new business on the new business agenda? All right. Well, looks like the opportunity is present and no one's wants to speak to this particular agenda. Doesn't mean they don't want to speak to other agendas when they come up. We'll move on to meeting evaluation without objection. Anyone have anything for meeting evaluation? John Steinhardt again.
Yeah, just want to say great meeting, and yeah, I'm happy to appoint Teresa to be the Vice President of Presentations for us.
Paxton.
Actually, I had a question on that I was trying to get my hand up on.
Yeah, okay.
And that was the appointment of the ADIB work group members. Are there only 3 or are there going to be more?
Go ahead, Arna.
Well, the proposal called for, I think, 5 to 7. And we have not made our recommendations yet, so we will have them done by the next meeting.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other meeting evaluation? Last call. Seeing none, the next board meeting is Monday, October 7th, 2024 at 7 p.m. via Zoom. And the president's piece.
All right, look at the timing. This is great. I know we go long sometimes, and so it's nice every once in a while to leave some time for folks to enjoy their families at the end of the evening. My piece today is fairly simple. It's just I learned something in a training that the board just finished, and I thought to share it with the membership as something to think about, just to process. I've spent the last few days kind of processing this exact point, and the point was that when talking about DEI, the I, which is inclusion, the point was made that inclusion means change. And that was something that was really, that stuck out to me, and I hadn't thought about it in that simple of ways. And so I thought I'd share with you, what does inclusion mean for you? And share that with you to see if that matches up with your value systems. and just getting you to process what does inclusion mean to you? Does that land with you as a member of this organization? And I just wanted to share that with you for this evening, something to think about. And lastly, I will be trying to put on the schedule fairly soon a board listening session. And that would have a few topics. I'm trying to get it done before the end of the year. But if we don't get to it, know that the board, we're thinking about it. And we're trying to, we've got a lot of meetings. We're trying to make space for that to happen with the membership. So stay tuned and have a good evening.
Thank you very much. And so I see a couple hands waving. Normally we're done at this point.
Yeah.
Everybody,
waving.
did you want to say something, Sue? Or just waving?
I was just waving happy goodbyes.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. With that, the September meeting of the Oregon Country Fair Board of Directors is adjourned.
Great meeting, everybody. Thanks for your time.
Dude, that thing's loud, man. What's happening there?
See you at the next meeting.
Night.
Yeah.